What's up, YouTube? Extra Time, driven by Continental for May 16th, 2019. A huge show for you. Bruce Arena is going to be here, and so are these guys, fresh off a plane from the Open Cup, the oldest competition
it was
in
epic.
U.S. history.
What a week we had. Florida Soccer Soldiers,
March
El
on,
Farolito.
boys. March on.
It's beautiful.
I have a rant coming, by the way, on Open Cup. I feel it in my bones, so prepare yourself for that. Also, prepare yourself for what? Bruce Arena, right, Bobby?
I also had to listen to David Gass tell me about what locker room culture is like.
Yeah, he didn't.
Learning from an
kindly
expert.
To that. Bruce Arena interview coming up for you right now. Extra Time starts now. Oh, from New York, you are listening to Extra Time, driven by Continental from the AT&T MLS studios in Midtown Manhattan. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, David Gass, Bobby Warshaw, sitting back from the microphone. We have a big show for you. Bruce Arena will join Extra Time because he is now the sporting director and head coach of the New England Revolution. Things happened in such a way that we literally didn't get to talk about Brad Friedel being dismissed. We didn't get to talk about Mike Burns, the GM of the Revs, being dismissed. We didn't get to talk about Bruce Arena becoming sporting director and head coach because of the cruelty of timing. But that's all over. Bruce will be here.
You think it's a coincidence?
I want to think it's a coincidence. You think we have that sort of pull, that power?
I think that when you send out the Google Doc that schedules,
Uh-oh.
I think you're accidentally sharing it with the New England Revolution
BCC?
right now, and they are making sure to stay off our schedule.
Oh, wow. So that we could go on this bit, Bobby. Or if you have a bit, you could jump in here. I have some options for you. There's an app update. My MLS has come in. Not the best bit. Doesn't have a ton of potential, I wouldn't say. Susanna has not been here, you'll notice, it's a Thursday, since the call-up dropped. So potential bit for you there. You interviewed Tab Ramos about the U20s. You could riff on that. That could be a bit for you. You spent the last 2 days with Dave eating hummus. That could be a bit. Where do you want to go here?
Not a bit guy. Still not a bit guy.
Okay.
But I do have a statement that I think
Prepared or
is
unprepared?
worth. It's not fully fledged out, but it's something I think is worth sharing.
Okay,
Fleshed out,
share away.
I think. I think Doyle's
Thank you, Doyle.
share, so I
Yeah,
have
Doyle's
to.
share. You have to.
A Star is Born has not gotten the credit that it deserved.
You're so
Such a terrible
you're
bit.
so
Oh my
basic. It's
God.
funny that you don't like bits because you're so basic.
Why is that basic?
Because your two favorite things in the world are La La Land and A Star is Born, which are the two most mainstream, neutral versions of their categories that exist on the planet.
David, I don't have the time on this show to explain art to you.
For sure.
Okay?
Oh, you don't like art?
I can't explain this to you.
Okay.
But what I will say, Andrew, give me the room
All right,
to make one
you
more
know what?
statement.
You just let your bit run.
Okay.
I'm letting it run free here.
Tell me a better 10 seconds in anything, in any book, in any song, in any movie, in any show ever made than when Jackson Mays is on stage.
You don't even know his name. It's Jackson Maine. It's Jackson Maine. You don't even know his name. This is a horrible bit.
When
You don't know what you're doing.
When-
you don't know what you're doing.
when my guy Jack is on stage
Nice.
singing their song, waiting for Allie.
Yeah.
In that little pause, she's nervous.
Yeah.
She's deciding, do I go? Do I stay? Do I
This
take
is-
my chance?
You know what that
I can
movie-
tell you exactly what better moment there is. Jed Bartlett lights a cigarette inside two cathedrals, flicks it to the ground, and says, "You get Hoynes," and walks out. Boom. Done.
We're going to go to soccer right now, MLS midweek. But
Bobby knows
occurs
it's
to
true.
It occurs to me that Bobby, while watching that movie, was probably very wistful because he thought, you know what, this is what my life could have been. Just a young man from Mechanicsburg with a
He's got
nice wardrobe and a good
I was gonna say this
5
is a
o'clock shadow.
country music show right now.
He could do some work in that.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some work. MLS midweek. How do we want to handle this? Should we just go bullet point because we have a lot to get to? We have
Yep.
the Revs, we have Bruce Arena. Here's what you need to know from MLS midweek. New Timbers DP Brian Fernandez scored on his debut 12 minutes into his first appearance in Houston against the Dynamo, who had been up there tops of points per game in Major League Soccer. Ball over the top. He's direct. He's honestly casual in the 18. He makes it look easy. That's what you want from him in his debut. He seemed to enjoy it as well. Atlanta United. 5 games, 5 wins, 5 shutouts, 5 instances in which nobody could doubt Frank de Boer. They could doubt him.
Yeah, I
there's
think
still
people
room.
still are.
There's still room for doubt. But they went to Vancouver, went on a road trip, kept some big guns at home, and got a win.
Right now, he needs to gut points just to get them up in the standings while he has time to develop what he wants, and it's perfect for him.
By the way, to go on that point, up in the standings, they have 20 points from 11 games. DC leads the division, Eastern Conference, with 24 from 13. With games in hand, they could pass DC United. Atlanta United, after that tough start. That's a big deal. Toronto FC, Bobby, they had their shooting boots on. 35 times they tried to put the ball in the back of the net. 35 times they failed to put the ball in the back of the net. That is an MLS record. That is the third most shots taken in a game ever. Never have more shots been taken and no goals scored. Josie Altidore, they need him. He had a heel injury. That's why he didn't play in this game. Jordan Morris, the Sounders need him. He was one of the best wingers, we were saying, the first 2 weeks. Well, he bricked an easy header, and then he went off with a hamstring strain, and we know what that meant in 2017. That's no good. Christian Paredes, your boy for the Timbers, he left early. Looked like it might have been a knee injury. That's no good. Raul Ruidiaz is back from injury, and he grabbed the goal. And Estray in the YouTube comments section says, I listened to this whole show for the 20 seconds, maybe, just maybe you mention Vancouver every week. I'm a relatively new fan of the show, but it definitely seems like we have favorites, and others get more coverage than the others. So, do you have a Vancouver nugget for me? Anything? No?
I will say no.
No.
Bobby, do you have something, or can I?
They say we don't talk about them enough.
Vancouver is 8th in the Western Conference.
Okay.
So arguably, and also, by the way, 8th in the Western Conference would put you in 10th right now in the Eastern Conference. You are arguably the 16th best team in Major League Soccer. We talk about Vancouver to the 16th best team in Major League Soccer's amount of time.
Geez.
You are getting your portion. I shout out Ali Adnan, the guy goes and misses a PK. We talked about Wang Inbom being arguably the best passer in this league. We have talked about Vancouver as much as they have earned to be talked about, and I have no problem with any fan wanting to hear more about their team. I've got no issue with that at all, but where they stand right now, they've got it out a couple results, but they're not doing anything special. We interviewed Mark Dos Santos. We're really pumped for what he can build, but it's been 3 months. There's nothing impressive yet, and there's just nothing really unique yet about what he does.
You bring this heat for the Vancouver Whitecaps, and you don't feel the same way about Jackson, Maine?
I don't care about a Stars.
Leave Jackson, Maine. Yeah, just leave it. There may be a reason why you don't like bits, Bobby.
Doing a bit, right?
Yeah, this is a bit.
Yeah.
You didn't need bits in the Open Cup, though. Bruce Arena coming up. The drama is there. The storylines are real.
Yeah.
They're very real. It was amazing. Florida Soccer Soldiers, TID.
Boom.
I am forever a fan. The call, by the way, boys, can I just... That call on that game, I've watched it probably 5 or 6 times. Bobby is just so pure. It's so pure. Oh, no. Oh, no. What are you doing? Hassan and Dom, don't pass it back.
My guy Hassan.
And I can only imagine what you guys were like calling that thing.
It was awesome. It was
Second
awesome.
round is over.
But it's awesome because it's not like, oh, they gutted out a result. It's like they controlled the game for like 45 minutes. This is a team that started a 36-year-old and a 32-year-old in central midfield who played professionally in Venezuela like 5 years ago. And they're playing right behind a 19-year-old at the number 10 position, who's the son of Argentina's 2014 World Cup manager, Alejandro Sabella. Like, none of that makes sense, what I just said to you.
And their name is the Florida Soccer Soldiers.
It's their second year of existence, and then they go and they're able to get this result against a Charlotte Independence team. They played better against a USL Championship team than they did against an NPSL team last week. It's the beauty of this sport. It's why we love this tournament, because it has that opportunity. And one of the things that you're seeing is along the lower levels of the sport in this country, the way it's been for over 100 years. By the way, the San Francisco League, I found out, was established in 1902, has run continuously, is you have teams that are built out of different pockets, whether it's populations or ethnic pockets or, specific immigrants from certain areas, and then those teams can represent those communities. So this was a largely Venezuelan group living in South Florida, some Argentines, some Colombians as well. And then you've got like Will Stamatis up top, who's from Pennsylvania and played at Columbia University. And then they go and they beat a fully professional side. It's been a lot of fun.
Forward Madison. The Flock,
Flamingo.
Everybody's Flamingo now. They knocked off El Paso Locomotive, and they didn't just knock them off. They went to El Paso and worked them. Josiel Nunez, pure sauce.
Yeah.
Pure intent on embarrassing anybody in front of him. I enjoyed that game so much. It makes me sad that El Farolito is out.
Me too.
The Villages are out. North Texas
By the way,
Rayados
if anyone's
are
out there, have you been to Boxer Stadium in San Francisco? Like, literally, the shot came up, and I was like, this looks like Mexico City or like Buenos Aires. This is a gorgeous view. I want to play soccer there, so we should organize something.
I agree. Pickup there would be dope.
Yeah.
Maybe Jimmy Conrad can help us out. He's a Bay Area guy. Laredo Heat out. Cosmos out. Cal FC out. In 22 teams, they'll cut it down to 11. Then MLS teams will enter. We have 19 USL Championship teams. Just one from USL 1. That is Forward Madison. One from NPSL, Orange County FC, who won the battle for Orange County against Orange County SC. and penalty kicks, and then
It's not soccer, it's football.
yeah, one local qualifier, and that is the Florida Soccer Soldiers. Before I get to
boom.
a little bit of a rant that I've been working on, feeling for
Your
a couple
Taylor
days.
Twellman impersonation?
I hope it's not pure imitation. We shall see. Bobby, you called these games as well. It's a joy to listen to you do it. What was the moment
Andrew.
that brought you the most joy from this match day in the second round?
You've got to say the Florida Soccer Soldiers, man. When Sabella got onto that back pass, that misplaced back pass, tries to go around the goalkeeper. It didn't work at first, and it was such an incredible up, then down, then up, because you said this is going to be an incredible moment. Then he almost misses it, but then he regains his composure, dribbles around the defender, and scores. And I thought David nailed it. It was a cool experience to be a part of.
And also, they were man down and goal down in the 118th minute at that point.
And they're amateurs.
Yeah.
This is not
They
a
don't get to
professional
train.
team.
They
Right.
don't get to train every day.
Yeah.
It was
They
awesome.
gutted it out. They
Yeah.
gutted it out.
It was
Okay.
awesome.
Here is my take. Feel free to let me know if you agree, disagree. Comment section on YouTube, 401-206-0MLS, extra time at MLSsoccer.com. For the sake of the U.S. Open Cup, guys, MLS must enter this tournament earlier. It has to happen. I know that organizing the Open Cup is not easy. It's a jumble of teams, of locations, of expenses, travel. The format changes year by year. Expansion in Major League Soccer, in USL, across the board. The upheaval in our divisions, it makes it really hard. Everybody has their take. Everybody has the I'm the smartest person in this room idea to fix the Open Cup. Taylor Twellman does. I do too. I'll give credit to a whole host of people for this one. Jonathan Yardley among them on Twitter, noted U.S. Soccer uber nerd and walking CONCACAF pronunciation guide. This is not my idea. I do not own it, but I am a believer. Here's a problem, and I have a big problem with this. 21 of 32 teams in round 4 are from Major League Soccer. That is absurd. I watch MLS versus MLS every single week. You can watch USL Championship versus USL Championship every single week. Why, in the early stages of the US Open Cup, do we need this? Who does that serve? And I don't want to copy England. Doyle would bury me 6 feet under if he thought I was. But if the English Premier League can enter teams in the round of 64 in the FA Cup, then so can MLS teams. The U.S. Open Cup had 84 entrants this year, 97 the year before this. FA Cup has 124. They cut it down from 700. MLS should never play MLS teams in the round that they enter. And for that matter, I think it's USL Championship as well. For expansion, next year, 2020, 23 of 32 teams. If they keep it the same, will be from MLS. 2021, 24 of 32 teams when Austin comes in. After that, you've got maybe Sacramento, St. Louis. Then it's 26 of 32. After that, when you get all the way to 30, presumably it's 27 of 32. That's 5 teams, not from MLS in that round. You have to change it, and I expect they will at that time. But here's my solution going forward. Next year, enter all MLS teams in the third round, 64 teams, and USL Championship in the second. As League One, League Two expand, in MPSL, they've got a ton of teams. We can set up a more inclusive tournament with a larger footprint. There were only 8 local qualifiers this year. That is not enough. It is objectively better when they are here and make runs and get that shine. Florida Soccer Soldiers, everyone. So, 2022, 23 MLS teams of 64 in the third round. That's one before the current entry point. So for everybody saying, well, MLS teams don't want to play too many more games, it's 1 extra game. Send your reserves. I don't care. The second round to get there should be this way: 25 USL Championship, 9 USL 1, 14 USL 2, 10 MPSL, 23 local qualifiers. Or give it to more MPSL teams or more USL teams. There's a lot of them.
I think NPSL right now is 90 teams.
You can find teams.
Yeah, and besides division winners, they do pick the next few entrants. It's not just division winners that get in. So they already have a system set up to select teams.
The point is that we can figure this out. The qualifying method, we can figure it out. They have to change it every year already. So, yeah, you might be saying, who cares? This is small potatoes. It's the Open Cup. I don't really care. Well, that's maybe the point here. This matters. You said it, Dave. It's the oldest ongoing competition in the U.S. We talk about our soccer culture, and Doyle does this rant better than anybody else, like it's some new thing. We have roots. If we don't celebrate them, if we don't strive to improve the tournament and heighten its its importance every year, we're ignoring those roots. So this is the battleground, our chance. You're talking about that field in the Bay Area that you'd love to be at. You would never have been exposed to that without the Open Cup. You would never have seen that nook and cranny of soccer in the U.S. I want to see El Farolito, Rayados, Cal FC, FC Wichita last year.
Des Moines Menace.
I want to see it across divisions between pros and amateurs. I want to see head-to-head matchups that we can't get in any other way. Keep these teams from the same leagues apart as long as possible, and then make MLS and USL Championship go on the road.
So that part I don't know I 100% agree with that. And Taylor has said this a lot. Every MLS and USL Championship team should travel because it is a strain for a lot of these lower teams to host in their facilities. And now with the expanded broadcasting, some of these places aren't set up for those things. I think it's positive. I'm okay with still having a draw of who hosts, but the cost needs to come from somewhere else for these lower division teams. And for an MLS team, if you say, hey, we don't want to travel guaranteed, then you should have to pay for some of the travel of the lower division teams to come to play you. And as MLS expands, it's going to get easier because you've got a larger footprint.
Yeah.
As you're adding more teams, you add Austin, now all of a sudden the Laredo Heat, NTX Rayados, they have a closer team to go to. You add Sacramento potentially to MLS, and now you've got a closer trip for El Farolito if they don't get the San Jose Earthquakes. All those things like that, it just gets easier as you go along.
I completely agree with all those points. My counterpoint is that MLS has an opportunity, and USL Championship and everyone involved in the professional game has an opportunity to give momentum to places that may not get that opportunity otherwise. Give those teams, Rayados, FC Wichita, Cal FC, Farolito, whatever it is, give them the gate. Give them the money that comes in. Give those communities a big moment. Give those players, those coaches, the fans, the chance for an upset. Because when you're at home, we know your opportunity to win is so much better. It's a small sacrifice. And I think it'd have a big effect on the overall soccer ecosystem. I mean, it's a better tournament. It's better stories. It's a richer overall soccer culture that we're building. And this tournament can and should be a big part of that.
And you mentioned send your reserves if you don't want to. We talk to every MLS coach and every academy director and every team, and they say, we just need good competitive games for our young players to get better. As MLS academies grow, this first, second round, third round Open Cup games is the perfect place to put the kids that you think are your future, to give the kids who are playing for your USL2 team, because they're not allowed to play in Open Cup, give those kids an opportunity to play against men, to play in games where it's win or go home, and everything matters, because when you're teaching young players, you're teaching them philosophy and style and what you want, but you also have to learn how to win, and that's a whole different skill set. This is the perfect place to do it. El Farolito put a player out in central midfield in Haywood, Armias Haywood, who has 5 caps for Panama and is 34 years old. Imagine for a 16 or 17-year-old MLS Academy player to have the chance in a one-game knockout to go up against a guy who has that type of experience. Then when you get to CCL, then when you get to CONCACAF World Cup qualifying, you have that experience. You sort of know what you're going to face to a better level than what you're getting right now.
And by the way, in the Open Cup, you do have limits on the amount of non-Americans that can play.
For the professional teams.
Yes. So that's where you can go to your academy, and that's where you put in. I love this tournament. I watched MLS midweek, and objectively speaking, the Open Cup games were more entertaining, took my attention more than those games. And that's because it was win or go home, and it was our tournament. It was the United States. It's what we've built over the course of a century, and this year has been incredible. I thank my lucky stars that they're bringing in people like you guys and others to actually call these games and give the early rounds the shine that they deserve. There's more work that we can do. That's my only point here. Let us know what you think. And now it's time to talk about the Revs.
Can I give one quick shout out too? Shout out to, we didn't mention Cal FC. Didn't make the run this year like they wanted to. Plays face off against Vegas. So Eric Winalda against the team he created. Keith Koskinen ran that team though. They played some gorgeous soccer. Dennis Flores is back in that side, coming back from Leon. That kid can play. Like, there are players out there that I hope MLS and USL Championship coaches are watching and being like, we need to get that guy into our team. And those are the teams that, if you expand this, they start to get a little bit of shine, and that's how they jumpstart their careers.
Come back to us, Bobby. Come back to us.
Dude, that was beautiful. That was art. You crushed it.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Is it better than...
I've been getting riled up about this.
Is it better than Star is Born?
Come on, bro.
All right, let's
Me and Bobby have been locked in about this for about 3 days.
I don't know where.
No,
this
not Star is Born. About US Open Cup.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out which one. I assumed both. Let's talk about the New England Revolution. The timing eluded us a little bit here, but the news is pretty straightforward. After less than 2 years, about a year and a half, Brad Friedel lost his job as the head coach of the New England Revolution. We've talked all about this year, the problems that they're having between results and motivation and everything else. Mike Burns has been with that organization for 15 years. The last 5 or 6, I think, as the GM. He is no longer the GM. He is no longer with the Revs. Bruce Arena now holds the soccer keys. He is the sporting director and the head coach. Just 2 teams in Major League Soccer have those monikers.
He's the Khaleesi.
I kind of like that. He has it all. Now he's going to...
No spoilers,
Don't hire
Bobby.
Tyrion, though. Don't hire Tyrion. He might lead you the wrong direction. Those TAM signings aren't going to get better under a Lannister. We're going to talk about it in just a second, but I had an opportunity to catch up with Bruce earlier on this Thursday. Let's take a listen to that interview. It is time now for our AT&T call to the field, and we are going to Foxborough and Bruce Arena, the new sporting director and head coach of the New England Revolution. Bruce, welcome to Extra Time.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
It's nice to have you back in Major League Soccer. Let's keep it real simple. What brought you back?
Well, I'm a coach, and that's what coaches do. They coach teams, and I've been offered the opportunity, and in conversations with ownership and management, they convinced me that the Revolution are going to be positioned to be more successful. And I think it's a great opportunity. I think Boston's just a great sports town with great teams and championship teams, and we want to elevate the Revolution to a point where we can challenge for championships as well.
You're a coach. You coach, you say. Was there ever a thought for you after Cuva, after the U.S. national team, that you wouldn't come back, or was this inevitable?
No, it wasn't inevitable because before we started speaking last week, coaching a team wasn't necessarily on my mind. I've been enjoying my time away from the game and wasn't considering getting back into coaching anytime soon. But when the call came and we discussed in detail the opportunity here, it made sense to me to take on this project.
So you've been linked to some other jobs, at least in the media. I've been to Manhattan Beach. I've seen sort of the life that you can lead there. It is really nice. What sort of ambition does this club have? What did they sell you on? What had to be in place for you to say, you know what, I'm going thousands of miles away and I'm getting back in the game?
Well, simply the fact that they're going to get behind the team. We have a new training facility that's being built. It'll be completed by the end of 2019. There's a stadium down the road. I inherit a team that's not been successful to date, so in my view, we can only go forward. We can only go up. And that's a great opportunity to step in. And I also know from the past that Boston's just a great city for not only sports, but a great city to live in. So it's another new experience in life. But coaching is coaching, and it's another challenging opportunity. And that's what excites coaches, when you have a challenging opportunity. And certainly the Revolution will be a challenging opportunity.
We'll dig into the details in just one second, but I have to ask, and I think I can imagine what your answer might be to this. Maybe you saw Paul Tenorio's article at The Athletic, some anonymous folks in there, basically saying that MLS has changed a lot in 3 years, and they're not sure Bruce Arena can adjust. What would you say to folks who say that?
Well, that's everyone's entitled to an opinion, but I don't believe that that's even close to being an accurate statement. But listen, only time will tell. We know in this day and age everyone has an opinion, and that's fine, and I look forward to the challenge. How
plugged in have you been with MLS over, let's say, like the last year and a half? Do you have a 4-box screen set up in your basement? Are you just mainlining ESPN Plus like I am, or going to games, or has this been an actual breather for you, a little more casual?
No, I go to games, and I've been to games in Los Angeles. I watch games throughout the week. I have a son that happens to be with a team that gives me some insight on the things that are going on inside the league. So despite what some people may think, I'm pretty confident this league isn't past me.
Nobody knows this league historically like you do. What's changed in these last couple years? Because the growth has seemed breakneck to a lot of people, and not just the money, maybe.
Yeah, certainly there's the expansion. There's the infrastructure in the league, and by that I mean the stadiums and the training facilities have certainly been upgraded, and there's clearly more dollars invested in players. But not any more than than I've handled in the past. And I think it's actually a better situation in terms of going out and acquiring players from abroad. There's no question about that. So again, it's all about getting the right players, positioning them in the right places on the field, and getting after it day in and day out in your environment, and trying to create a winning environment, and obviously having to get the job done each and every game and getting 3 points.
Revs fans will obviously, Bruce, hear what you said about ownership getting behind you, and folks saw the $14 million rumored move at the deadline that kind of fell through there. You said in your press conference this morning that you don't think any club in the league needs to spend like Atlanta spends to win championships. That struck me as pretty interesting, given the Galaxy, kind of as you alluded to there, were not exactly penny pinchers when you were winning MLS Cups a few years back. What's the budget that you're looking at on the player side? How should that affect expectations?
Well, I've not put the pencil to the paper in terms of a budget. That'll be through a discussion, obviously, with management and ownership. But just look at recent history. Toronto did win a championship, but they also did not win championships with the biggest budget in the league and failed to make the playoffs last year. New York Red Bull won the Supporters' Shield with a budget certainly below a number of the top spenders. So there's not a direct correlation from spending dollars and being successful on the field. Certainly it helps. There's no question about that. But it's still about being smart about your resources and, getting it done day in and day out in your own environment.
What's the smart way to use TAM? Because some MLS teams, frankly, have not used it smartly, and I think the Revs might be one of those.
Well, the easiest answer to that question is get the right players for the TAM money. And that means you have to be smart about how you scout and how you evaluate players. One of the flaws of TAM is it's simply there are some players whose salaries are inflated because of it, and others that you're able to attain because of TAM. So there's the pluses and the minuses of that system. But at the end of the day, all successful teams and all successful organizations are successful because of the people that are there. And I need to surround myself with good people. I need to do a good job. And if we all do our part, it'll add up to being more successful. And certainly that's our goal.
I like, Bruce, that you referenced the Red Bulls in Toronto because it kind of guides me into this question pretty seamlessly here. We talk a lot about identity on this show in Major League Soccer and the Red Bulls with their tactical side as well as the academy. Toronto FC were on a side where they were spending big on some big-name players there. If all goes to plan here at the Revs, and I know it's early days, you just took the job, how will we be describing this club from an identity perspective in, let's say, 3 years?
Well, I can't answer that question now. I can probably answer it in 3 years. It's too early to tell. We don't. I don't go into a project with a lot of set ways on how we want to do things. You go in and you evaluate what you have, both on the field and off. And after you do that, then you're able to develop a personality that will hopefully be consistent and position your team and your club to be successful. And that's all I'm going to try to do. And hopefully in 3 years from now, you're going to say, this is a real solid organization and they can compete for championships.
You got the training facility coming. You've alluded to that stadium. We're all waiting with bated breath on that one as well. It could completely change soccer in New England. There's the academy, there's scouting, there's sports science. Sporting director's a big job here. Where's the most work to do as you see it right now? And I know you said you got to evaluate, but are there places that stand out? We need to invest here. I have to focus here. I need staff here now.
Well, it's a little bit of everything, but I know we need to get caught up to speed in terms of the sports science side of it. We need to expand our scouting and do a better job there, and we need to do a better job of coaching. We have to select the right players, and we have to, the phrase you use in coaching, coach them up, position them to be successful. So that's going to be the job of both the sporting director and the head coach.
It's a lot of work, and you know that
Yes,
from
it is.
experience, these dual roles. I remember when I first started covering this league, you looked around, there were a lot of guys doing this, and now it's Peter Vermees and you. How is there enough time in the day, Bruce? Help me understand how you can do all this.
Well, you surround yourself with good people as well. I don't claim to be doing everything. I'm probably not going to be sweeping the floor in the locker room or serving the meals, but we're going to have a lot of good people that can share in all the duties and responsibilities that we have. And perhaps in time I relieve myself of one of those responsibilities. But in the short term, I'm going to do everything I can to move this organization in the right direction, and hopefully that'll enable us to be successful.
When I was thinking about this interview and what I wanted to ask you, Bruce, one of the things was about coaching, and I don't want to parse words here, but sometimes that's the job. You mentioned there that maybe one of those things might come off your plate. Is coaching still your passion, or could there come a time when you step back into the front office and, let's just say, hire someone to take over that side of the gig?
Sure, that's all possible, but if it's not a passion right now, I'm pretty stupid getting myself involved in this project. But so certainly it is. I think when you're a coach, that never leaves you. And I said today in a press conference, I've become an expert over the last year and a half. I've been able to sit back, whether it's at home, watching games on television, or sitting in the stands. I've become an expert. I know everything now. So I'm in a good position. I've followed all the sports going on in the country. I've done a lot of bucket list stuff that I've really enjoyed through sport and other things. So I've really positioned myself well to take on this responsibility now. And the passion in coaching is certainly still there. And yes, perhaps one day I would just move into a front office. But right now, the responsibilities I have at the Revolution, I'm quite confident that I can take them on and be successful.
I want to read you a quote, and you'll probably recognize it. It's from you, Bruce. Quote, "I could learn as much or more from Bill Belichick as I could from the manager of Manchester City." Is there a dinner on the books, or red wine?
There's no dinner yet, but the one thing I would say is that was a really accurate quote, because I think today I would still say the same thing. I think coaches are very ssimilar, and I've had the opportunity over the years, especially in Los Angeles. I've sat down with the coach of the Lakers or the Dodgers or the Kings, and we share a lot of things that we experience day to day in coaching, and it's really been beneficial. So now being in Foxborough, I'm around arguably the most successful coach in the history of the NFL and perhaps in the history of our country. So if I ever get an opportunity to sit down with him, I'm sure we're going to share experiences, and I can learn an awful lot from him as well.
Same age, both lacrosse guys. I'm telling you, you got, I'm just wondering here, are you the soccer Bill Belichick, or is he the football Bruce Arena? I'm trying to figure that one out. You can feel free to roll your eyes at me on that.
I don't think I should be mentioned in the same sentence as Bill Belichick, but I'm honored to be here, and hopefully we can be colleagues as well.
All right, Bruce, I'm glad to have you back in MLS. Glad to chat with you here. I do have to end you with a question on the national team. Everybody's still thinking about this. You got criticism for not qualifying for the World Cup. That was going to happen. Everybody knows it. You told The Athletic, Sam Stejskal, that you felt like you had nothing to redeem yourself for. There are no regrets here, no second-guessing, nothing in hindsight at all?
Well, obviously disappointed that we didn't qualify, but I thought our coaching staff and our players put in a tremendous effort in 2017. And when I took on that responsibility, we realized that we were going to go down to the last day. And yes, we fell short, but unfortunately that's sport. On that day, things didn't go our way, and when teams aren't successful, whether you agree with this or not, it's not the responsibility of one person; it's the responsibility of a lot of people, and we all fell short. And to this day, I'm still disappointed, but that's also sport. If you look around in a variety of sports at all different levels in our country over the last couple of years, you'll see a very similar situation. You're never happy with it, but hopefully it's an experience that U.S. soccer has faced that they can learn from. And hopefully the next time around, which is qualifying for the 2022 World Cup, the U.S. team will be there. The organization of U.S. soccer will be stronger, and the experience that was faced by the technical staff will be such that you can learn from it. So I see nothing but positive things ahead for U.S. soccer and MLS.
Bruce, thank you so much for your time. I know you have a busy schedule here. Excuse me. We'll let you go and look forward to seeing what you build out there.
Thank you. Appreciate the call.
All right. Those are the words of Bruce Arena. What are your words? What do you make of this? The whole thing, Revs top to bottom. And we can focus on Bruce, or you can rewind it back to Friedel and Burns if you want.
No, there's a lot going on here, and we've talked about it now over the last few days because we didn't have time to talk about it on the show, so it started to solidify a little. For me, there are question marks around, and you asked those questions, and everyone else, you mentioned Paul Tenorio has asked where Bruce is at in terms of MLS, where it stands right now, what his job is, what he has to do. I think Bruce is a good leader in terms of setting up this organization to move forward, in terms of building out the front office, building out the scouting network, the academy. Those are the things that are taking MLS teams to the next level around the league that the Revs are catching up in. And I think Bruce can do that. But the biggest part to me is, one, the sign from ownership that they care and they want this to change by bringing Bruce Arena in. And I think Bruce Arena is the one guy in U.S. soccer landscape that can hold the Crafts' attention, that he can convince them this is what I need and this is why, and they'll believe it because they've known him for 30 years. He is the most successful coach, but not just the most successful coach. He's the big name. You brought up Belichick, and yeah, that's the whole, ridiculous, let's compare different things. But Bruce Arena is the biggest name in U.S. soccer. He's the most successful national team coach. He's won MLS Cups. He's just been around. I still remember when the LA Galaxy fired Ruud Gullit, and he was in the stands, and they caught him on ESPN, and it was like the energy from everyone, like, that guy can turn this around. And I don't know if it's that here, but I think he has the gravitas to go to ownership and say, this is what it takes to win in Major League Soccer. This is what this club needs. And I think a guy at Robert Kraft's level, who maybe isn't always involved in the MLS side, because he's got his son Jonathan, who more organizes it, will understand, will respect Bruce Arena because of his resume, because of their relationship, and get involved.
And it feels like his task is more than winning. Like, he has a charge other than just winning a championship. He can be successful if he does things other than just win on the field, which is take that franchise to a new level.
It feels like a reboot in a lot of ways. And you talk about MLS Originals, and I was, a front row spectator for Sporting Kansas City's reboot. And I'm not equating the two or saying they're the same. There were a lot of different circumstances there, but it was a club that had fallen on hard times, that wasn't as relevant as they wanted to be, but still had support and still had some financial backing. I think it's important to parse Bruce's words and also parse his actions, because he said this came quickly for us. We'd had conversations in the past, but this came quickly, which says to me that when he said we need this as far as finances, headcount, resources to be successful, maybe that new stadium, you heard him hinting an awful lot about that. They all have about Boston. They all call it Boston. Nobody says Foxborough. That those things were coming and it wasn't a question mark.
Yeah.
He has the resources he wants. Now he has to figure out how to build this into something other than what it is right now, which is rudderless.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get at him with the identity question, like, what will this be? And I think it's smart of Bruce not to stake his claim right now.
And I don't think we're going to see anything that's as obvious as what we see with Peter Vermees, with what the Red Bulls have built, maybe even with what LAFC is building, because I don't know that he has this one DNA that he's going to build in. It's just going to be smarter. It's going to be more intelligent about the sport, and I think he's going to lean on a lot of other people to maybe run sessions, because that's not going to be his role, and he's going to have some assistant GMs who know the league, who understand TAM and draft picks and all those things that are moving around, because he's not going to have full time to look at either of them. And I don't know that Bruce Arena, where he's at in his career, is really going to be the details numbers guy on it. But in general, he knows how to talk to players and sell an idea to them to come in. He knows what talent looks like. And one thing he's done best in his career is to trust talent on the field and set them up in a way for them to be confident to go out and play. So it won't be as detail oriented maybe and clear, but it will be more successful.
Well, it feels like the best way to break this down, there are two components with the New England Revolution right now. There's what happens on the field with him as a manager and winning and losing games, and there's what is going to happen, or maybe what needs to happen off of the field, right? It feels like B. What's going to happen off the field, Bruce Arena is undoubtedly the right guy. The clout he brings, the notoriety, the respect he brings from everyone involved is key, and he's probably the best person for that job. But you also have to ask about A, and I think A is a much tougher question, because if you look in 2019 that coaches are successful in Major League Soccer and that are successful around the world, they are the guys who are up on the sideline shouting. They are the guys who try and control every little thing that happens all around the club and specifically on the field. They are incredibly detail-oriented. That wasn't Bruce Arena, and he was incredibly successful. He was the right manager for, what was the timeline, 1996 until 2014, right? His way of managing was fantastic. But it's different than what we see from Bob Bradley and Peter Vermees and Luchi Gonzalez. And I think that's a real question as to whether his style of being a head coach still works and how much A impacts B. If he isn't a successful head coach in 2019, if his method doesn't still work, and I should add, I did text people who played for Bruce, and they said that's just what he did because it was the right thing to do in those eras. He's a smart guy. He knows how to coach in multiple ways. He can adjust. He will adjust. So I'll put that out there. But I remain skeptical, and I do wonder how much does A impact B, and if he doesn't win on the field, maybe it isn't going to, or it hurts him in his mission to get things done off the field.
I don't think it will, because I think B is more about his ability to attract talent, and not talent in the player sense, talent in the academy director sense, and the scouting sense, and the assistant coaches, all those ranks. And I'm not sure that there's anybody in U.S. soccer that can snap his fingers and have people say, I want to work for that guy. I want to go to that organization. You talk to anybody who was in L.A., at least who enjoyed the good times and didn't get pushed out, it's like a cult. The gal, I mean, I actually want to back that phrase up a little bit, but they're all very passionate about one thing, which is how awesome it was to be there, how much fun they had, how much success they had, and how Bruce is the figurehead and driver of that culture.
It mostly is for the players, too. I just want to add that. It's similar for the players who played under him through those years.
Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to mention, you talked about Kansas City. I lived in New England, or I lived in Boston for 4 years. I went to games, which was a pain to get to. When they're good, people show up. When they promote, people show up. Like, we talk sometimes about markets that struggle for relevance. People care about the Revs. The Revs have struggled as a team on the field over the last few years. People will show up to that stadium and go to games if they're any good. So it's not, he doesn't have to hit a bullseye from 500 yards away on this one. If he has a competitive team out there in 2020, more fans will show up than in 2019. And I don't know that that's always true for every team. And the stadium would be amazing. If the Revs build a stadium in downtown Boston, it will be packed every single week. It'll be one of the best atmospheres in Major League Soccer. It'll be one of the best cities. Even without that, it will still be a good market for Major League Soccer if they can put a competitive team out there.
And this is Bruce Arena's job, right? To prepare them for perhaps that moment, that stadium in Boston, if it happens. We've talked about it for years, and no news here. We're just reading between the lines of what they're saying. And if not, get that organization in a place where they could make the jump or be successful in Foxborough. Because I remember that Eastern Conference Championship, before they went to MLS Cup. I mean, that was raucous. That was crazy. That atmosphere with Thierry Henry and that stadium packed and Jermaine Jones and the crafts on the field afterwards. I remember interviewing them, and they are giddy. They're jacked. They do care about the team. It may not always, to folks from the outside looking in, seem like it, but I think this decision is a doubling down from them to say, yes, we care. Yes, we will devote the resources. Yes, we see a big future for this part of our sports business.
And people say, why do it? Why come back? Of course, he said, I'm still passionate about it. I still want to be a part of this. But feather in a cap for Bruce Arena. I mean, if he builds this market back up and leaves the league a better place, because we see it. You need strong markets across the league. It can't just be Seattle, right? You have to have push and pull
can't be
across the league.
Teams trading that like we're the new thing.
Right. We're Soccer City USA.
Yeah.
And if he can build this up, and it's not just Boston, right? It's the New England region, and you start to build support there, and you maybe restart or re-energize the rivalry with New York. You've got Toronto and Montreal right there as well. Like, if he can do this would be a huge final chapter for what Bruce Arena did for the sport.
And who knows, man? He kind of hinted at it. Maybe he has the passion for coaching now. He says he'd be dumb to take this job if he didn't. But he left it open that maybe in the future, who knows? Things happen. He might be willing to back it up and let somebody take that spot.
We all dream of a team of Matt Reese. A team of Matt Reese.
It'd be
A
interesting.
team of Matt
Dave
Reese.
Sarakin's
Number
in
one.
USL. Matt Reese, I think, is in Columbus, Kinney Arena, LAFC. Who else was part of these squads? Where's yeah, I don't know. We'll see where his staff comes from, because they kind of scattered and did their own thing while he was waiting around. Bruce Arena and the Revs. 401-206-0MLS, Extratime at MLSsoccer.com. He says he's not sure yet when he will take to the sideline. Mike Lapper, the interim coach, will handle things until then. MLS Week 12, let's do it. What's your ESPN Plus game of the week? El partido de semana.
You want me to go first?
Sí.
So Toronto FC, you mentioned that record-setting shots. It wasn't actually a high expected goals from them. It's frustration to me. It's not we're creating a million opportunities and we just can't finish. It's shots through traffic, shots from distance, because they don't have that final killer instinct right now without Josie Altidore. And this team, I think, is good enough to compete in the Eastern Conference, but they can't do it the way they're set up without Josie. And they're teetering. They're five winless. They had a 4-game losing streak going into the home draw against DC United. So this is a huge game for them, even though it's a tough road trip for them to go from midweek to RSL. And on the flip side, RSL, Sam Johnson's scoring goals. So that's what Toronto wish they
about
had.
getting the ball, and now he's getting the ball, and he's putting the ball in the back of the net. RSL hosting Toronto, 3 p.m. Eastern on Saturday on ESPN Plus. Not ESPN Plus game of the week, but we have to mention it. San Jose, Chicago, 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Univision or Free For You on Twitter. Is Matt Doyle actually Matias Almeida's puppet master? I ask that because Matias Almeida is basically going straight to the Doyle handbook here. Armchair analyst. He probably wrote this in when was he drafted? Probably 2016. Doyle wrote this stuff. Basically, that Jackson Ewell is one of the players with the brightest futures in this league. He likes his personality. He thinks he's going to go to Europe. He's teaching him. He's a great player. We love him. He's a national team player. I feel like somebody was on this bandwagon first, though. I can't think of who it was. It's probably you, Dave.
No, it was Doyle. Doyle started
Okay,
this.
fine.
Yeah.
We'll give it to Doyle. It's all Doyle, right? Right?
I can't even do this right now.
You can't? You don't want to do this bit?
Can't do this.
Not there
right
for
now.
it? Okay.
No.
I don't actually ever remember you being the Ewell guy before Doyle.
There's literally evidence.
What is the
physical
evidence? Tell me the evidence.
There are things in the ether on the internet that are very
Go on the dark web and we'll find some interesting posts. Anyway.
There's no American domestic player who played as a teenager that Matt didn't claim.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Like, who could you not do this over?
Doyle just throws it out there, and then he goes, well, we all know Doyle plants content.
Right.
He's been doing it for 10 years
He's been planting
now.
for a long time.
Yeah.
He actually planted this,
Yeah, for sure.
basically.
Doyle
My
wrote
other
this
question-
rundown 10 years
My
ago.
other question about Doyle is if he's truly the puppet master from Matias Almeida, how would he look in a backwards hat? Because Matias Almeida is rocking the backwards ball cap during training every day and pinging in upper 90 balls and spinning it from crazy angles, basically doing F2 trick shots after training with his hair flowing in a backwards cap, and it's extremely admirable and way cooler than anything I will ever do.
He's a baller.
My ESPN Plus game of the week, Giassi Zardes, now a designated player, going to Minnesota, 8 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Minnesota, we talked about it on the last show, last 9 games haven't exactly gone how they wanted. They have not been winning at home, at least not enough to quench the thirst of that fan base. And Adrian Heath.
How's your pen, Wiebe?
My pen just fell. I dropped my pen. It was a little bit jarring.
You also have no paper to write on.
Columbus, if we're talking about form, Columbus is not a team that we want to talk about form with. They have 1 win in their last 7 games. The other 6 are L's.
Minnesota needs a W. So this is, you don't want to say must win. It's MLS early. There's more opportunities. There's a million games coming up. But this feels like one of those moments for Minnesota to be able to take a little bit of a breath after what Adrian Heath's gone through over the last month and a half now with this group.
No offense. Columbus Crew SC is not the Manchester City of MLS. What's your...
I like how you were like, what Adrian Heath has gone through.
Yeah.
What has Adrian Heath gone through?
Matt Doyle's been complaining about him. That's as stressful a thing as you can have in life. By the way, we didn't mention this yet. Will Trapp, go check out his outfit for pre and post game from this weekend. He's wearing this Bolden collar and
What, like khaki pants?
No,
and a white button up, or-
no. He's got a
figured it'd
white.
be just like Greg Berhalter.
No, he's got a white button down with a jacket on, and the button down on its collar has like golden stripes. It's amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
Will Trapp got swag?
Yeah, Will Trapp has
Bob Bradley's
serious
stylist
swag.
probably got a hold of him there. I actually stole Bobby's ESPN Plus game of the week.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah. I made a mistake on
theme
that.
occurring
My
here in the
actual
show.
game of the week is Philly-Seattle.
Oh, so now you're just gonna do both?
Yeah, I'm doubling up because I mean Bobby doesn't want to be typecast here.
Bobby's got nothing to say.
You know,
I would say I'm just generally flustered by the last few minutes of the show.
good. I have you exactly where I want you then. Philly, they're rolling top of the East,
Look at that.
doing their thing.
I just found the
Oh my
picture.
God,
there are
that is a tiger.
tigers.
That is
there
a
are
literal
golden
tiger.
tigers.
We
on
have cameras in here. Yeah, that is
They
incredible.
can't zoom.
Oh, they can see it though.
Look at that.
That is not the sort of swag that I expected from Will
Will
Trapp,
Trapp.
but I respect it.
We'll tweet it from the ETR account.
I absolutely respect it. Philly-Seattle. Seattle got a good win midweek against Orlando. Raul Ruiz-Diaz is back, but Jordan Morris is out, and now they have 6 of 7 games on the road. It gets tougher. Their pace is right there with LAFC right now. I think just 2 points back, same games played, which is pretty incredible given how much we have drooled over LAFC.
Yeah.
Philly have a great opportunity again to say it's not just a little bit fluky in the beginning of the season. This is who we are. We are one of the best teams in Major League Soccer.
Interesting matchup here, Shabelko against that back line, because he is dominant. He won every single battle against Toronto FC last week. He is. What? That's your thing?
Did you just say Shabelko has been dominant?
Putting his back into defenders, he wins every single ball. Because defenders get locked into contact with him and they don't even track the ball. And it was Mavinga, Simon, and Zavaleta, who are pretty good physical defenders, and they lost every single one of those 50-50s with him.
Bobby can't talk about Philly.
Bobby's so upset at me.
Bobby, we have to move on. Red Bulls Atlanta, Sunday, FS1, 5 p.m. Eastern. I hope you didn't have anything good to say there.
Bobby might leave the show.
I just think that I had a vision of how the show was going to go, and it's zagged at every opportunity for me.
Oh, it's like media coming into the locker room immediately post-game and getting in your face.
We'll see about that. We'll see.
How do we feel about that, by the way? Pity Martinez doesn't like that.
I feel very strongly about it.
That it's bad or it's good?
I feel very strongly that it's one of these moments where people say, you go to the butcher shop and no one's pressuring you. There's not enough pressure in MLS. And then they're like, it's kind of uncomfortable to have media in the locker room right after a game. It's in our space. It's difficult to deal with. Yeah, you say all the time how there's not enough pressure and it's not hard enough. And then you find this difficult, but it's different than the difficulty you find in Europe and in South America, and it's wrong. And I think that that's ridiculous. First of all, every American professional sports team, which gets as much coverage, if not more, than a ton of these soccer teams, they deal with it. So it's not impossible to deal with. And on top of that, it's something you have to answer for your results. These are the moments you are trained as a professional to do. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. Yes, that is all you complain about to make players better.
I think part of Pity Martinez's point, and I agree with you, by the way, was that it's like a sacred place. Yeah. Like even the coach isn't supposed to come in there.
I don't disagree with anything you just said, but what you just said was completely off base from what the original point was.
Which is?
PT he's not saying that he doesn't want to face the questions. He's just saying that
no, they don't. They don't have to face questions in a lot of countries. First of all,
he has said that he actually doesn't want to face the questions. He actually says he doesn't want to respond most of the time.
It is a way to hide from the media and not have to deal with them as much.
And that's his choice, by the way. If the media comes to the locker room, Pity Martinez or whoever can say, you know what, I don't want to talk to them.
100%.
That's their choice. And then that's your communication. Then anybody can make what they will with that, and they can talk about the fact that you're not talking. I think back, and maybe you'll say this is a dumb reference, to like Wizards 2010 Aaron Holbein. Throw that one back.
No, we're done.
He makes a mistake in his one game he plays. He sits in the locker room for 25 minutes and answers to it. If Aaron Holbein can do it.
The point wasn't about answering questions or not answering questions. It was about the nature of the locker room and what the locker room means to you. I personally don't think the locker room is sacred in a certain way to American athletes, but it's not sacred in the we don't take questions in it. But that's just different for cultures. It wasn't about taking questions or not taking questions. It was about what the locker room means to you culturally.
Understood, but part of the protection of the locker room in other countries is they then can control how much they have to deal with the media. When they walk out and there's a mix zone that they walk through, they can walk straight through it and don't have to stop. They don't have to deal with media if they don't choose to. When Boca Juniors loses, they can walk right past the media. When Stoke City or Manchester United loses, they can walk right past the media.
I love that you just dropped Stoke City.
Yeah, because
when Shakhtar Donetsk loses,
Well, Shakhtar would always answer the
Yeah,
questions
always,
because
for
they're my
sure.
number one squad.
Number
It's
one.
just part of the whole environment. I understand what you're saying, that it's for the team, it's sacred, but you have time. It's not open the moment the game ends. Like, you have time, and no one's going in pregame. So it is your space to operate.
5 p.m. Eastern on Sunday,
I
FS1.
just want to make this point. You don't,
Red Bulls, Atlanta United.
for us, you don't podcast from a bathroom, right? There's places you do things, there's places you don't. It's not that you don't podcast, it's not that you don't do radio, it's that you don't do it in a certain place. That's what this is about. It's not about the action, it's about what a certain place means to you and your culture.
Okay. All right. Let us know what you think. 401-206-0MLS. Into the mailbag. Grilled cheese from Anders in the control room. The Impact are
What up,
inducing
Anders?
4 new grilled cheese sandwiches named after players. The Evan Bush is mozzarella cheese, pickles, mustard, in a hot dog bun. I didn't realize it was in it. That's sacrilege.
Hot dog buns are different in different places, though. They're more like rolls.
Gotcha.
I was
Okay.
in Toronto this weekend, which is in Canada, and I had a veggie hot dog, and it came on a roll.
Okay. All right. The Samuel Piet is Gouda cheese, smoked meat, and mustard, and a hamburger bread. Another interesting. Bakari Sanya is the triple cream brie cheese and a rye. And Nacho
Yo.
Piatti is provolone and chorizo and a hot dog bread. Which of those sandwiches would you pick? And what are the best sandwiches you can come up with based on MLS players? We'll do the MLS players one later because I want to hear what you have to say. I'm going to be probably an Evan Bush guy
Oh,
here.
that sounds like a good sandwich.
Yeah, I'm definitely a pickles and mustard in my grilled cheese. Where do you
I've never
stand?
had a grilled cheese with brie, but I love rye bread, and I respect Bakary.
No, I got dibs.
So,
I got dibs.
because Bobby can't eat meat.
I got
You're
dibs.
probably not going to be that chorizo.
No, and I'm not going to go
Stomach
smoked
issues.
meat either. So I'm Evan Bush or Bakary.
Okay, let us know. Sandwiches from
None of
MLS
these are
players.
none
We
of
want
these
those.
are Gruyere. I'm a big Gruyere
Yeah,
in my
Gruyere
grilled
is
cheese
good.
guy.
Gruyere is good. P.S. Anders says this is also the best produced show on MLS channels.
Agreed. CN wanted to email in, though, and say we do make mistakes, which is shocking. Matt Doyle wondered if a teenager has ever scored double digits in MLS before on Monday's show, and he said Diego Fagundes did it in 2013 for the Revs. I looked it up because he said he's pretty sure he's still a teenager.
Oh,
he was
he was.
18 years old, and he scored 13 goals.
I still remember seeing him score at Red Bull Arena and thinking, this guy is the truth. Like, this guy's going to go a long, long way. Some of the momentum has been, what?
Is that what you do when you watch a player and you say this guy is the truth?
What do you mean?
Did you not notice the action?
No, what'd I do?
You gave a little bit with like a thrust. It was this guy is the
it's
truth.
like opened up the chest.
Yeah.
My guy James has been giving me some good massages. Maybe it's just that new flexibility that I had.
Speaking of your personal life, Andrew, we have a fan who emailed in. Doug Everett from Washington says, you're a father to a young child. How do you explain Zlatan and his actions the last few weeks to Cam? After threatening Anuha and choking Johnson, his actions are inexcusable. I don't care how many highlight reel goals he scores. As a father of an 8-year-old soccer addict, Zlatan's self-centered attitude and violent conduct mean the one MLS team we won't watch in our house is the LA Galaxy. I hope the disciplinary committee agrees and nobody has to watch him for at least 2 matches.
We don't know yet what's going on with the disciplinary committee. Those decisions have come out, but as we've seen in previous instances with things like this where there are appeals, sometimes there's back channel stuff going on, and we'll see what happens with Zlatan. I think that he will probably be suspended, as you said on Instant Replay, Bobby. I think he should be. I mean, he chokeslammed Sean Johnson. It looked pretty intentional to me. As a father of a young child, I mean, look, Cameron's 18 months. He doesn't
no
know
idea
what the
what's
heck's
going
going
on.
on. Yeah, he's like, a ball. There's a ball on the screen. Cool. It's a teaching moment. Like, Zlatan is Zlatan. There are people in life who behave like this, and you can't go around pretending like it doesn't exist. You don't have to like it. I'm with Doug that he doesn't have to like it. He doesn't have to let his kid watch this. But you can point to that and say, that's not how we do it in our house. Don't treat people like that. Now, Zlatan, on the flip side, steps back and says, be successful. I'm successful. I know the game. I am, as Sean Johnson said, a clever boy, and I get away with this stuff all the time. This is what jacks me up. This is what gets me motivated. You can disagree about the right way to play the game, but I don't think it's set in stone, universal, this is moral, this is ethical, this is not in this sense. Zlatan did something. I think he should be suspended. That will be his punishment. That's a good teaching moment for your kid, and if you don't want to watch him, don't do it.
All right, moving on. Last one. We promised Mike Molinaro we'd give him a little bit for his Rapids fandom.
Lay
He
down,
says,
Mike. Get yourself on a couch.
He says,
lay
can you
back,
help
relax,
explain what our
close your
future
eyes."
looks like for our Rapids? We also had another Rapids fan who bleeds burgundy say, who do you see as a coach for them? So give us a little bit. What do you see in the future when you look into your ball?
Tab Ramos was thrown out as a possible name. You spoke to Tab. We kind of teased that. I gave you as a bid opportunity. Go download that episode, that interview from Bobby Warshaw about the U20s with Tab was really good. Bobby, crystal ball time. Rapids.
No, I think Tab will get the job. I would be surprised at this point if he didn't get the job, unless there's a Matias Almeida out there who's going to pop in at the last second. I mean, if you look at resumes, if you look at what you think the Colorado Rapids want, which is developing young talent, but also bringing in some higher price names, that seems to fit what Tab Ramos can do. But yeah, multiple names come off the books after this year. I do think that they continue to get Cole Bassett, Seb Anderson, Kellen Acosta. They have that nice young core of 4 or 5 players, and then they add the three new DPs coming in next year.
That would change the club.
Yeah.
New coach, big spin on the DP side.
It's hard to know the details, but there's reason for optimism. Like, you should not feel down about the long-term view of the Colorado Rapids. They had a bad 3 years. They made some bad signings. They're coming off the books, and it's a whole new time.
All right, that's it from us. Big thanks to Bruce Arena for calling to the show. His era in New England begins right now. Big thanks to you guys for jumping off a plane, coming here, doing extra time. For Dave Gass, Bobby Warshaw, I'm Andrew Wiebe. We'll see you on Monday, everybody.